The lands we reside in hold stories and songs of Indigenous peoples from time immemorial. These ancestral connections precede the work you are going to see here, both in language and place. The singers, musicians, and advocates have come together from across Indigenous lands to share this production of Echo, Memories of the World, with you and yours. The Company of Echo recognizes the erasure of cultural knowledge as atrocities that happened across the globe and are still happening. Reparation is a long road that we walk on with responsibility and acknowledge that. As you watch this piece, consider the Indigenous land you reside on, wherever that may be. Offer gratitude for the Indigenous peoples who steward this land and water. Many blessings.
Explores content that may be triggering. There will be depictions of human suffering, genocide, and residential school experiences. And great care will be taken as we share these stories with you. If at any time you need to take a moment for yourself, there is calming space in the lobby and water for nourishment. Water. Water surrounds and nourishes the beginning of knowledge for us all. Held in warmth and vibration, we are born. Multi-generational knowledge embedded in our memory through language, land, and water. The birth of our stories begins here. Welcome. Moran, founding director of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, joins us from the territories of the Husanich and Lekwungen-speaking peoples, sharing the knowledge of elders in the West.
For far too long, the diversity of the world has been under attack. Through the persecution of Indigenous peoples, to genocides, to the staggering loss of biodiversity we are living through, the richness of our planet is suffering. Libraries and archives offer a window into what was to help ensure we do not make the same mistakes. They are powerful tools to give rise to the guarantee of non-recurrence, the action of saying never again. The land itself holds memories and teachings far older than all of us. It is its own archive of eons and a teacher of humility. Learning to live together respectfully demands we place value on the richness and diversity of both our human family and the planet itself.
In order for us to be able to move forward, that we have to be able to be open to each other and be willing to share the knowledge that each of us have that can create a much better world. We can step forward and see it as a good beginning, but recognizing that there's a lot of work that still has to be done. But in keeping with, the teachings of our people, that it will require a spirit of courage to be able to meet these challenges that are in front of us.
Raudna Karita Era is a poet and playwright from the Norwegian side of Sápmi. She comes from a reindeer herding family and works at the Sámi National Theatre.
Small houses in all kinds of colors, laces of rusty corrugated iron sheets at the edge of the ice, the Barents Sea, an orange oil tanker heading for Marion Newman.
Oslo, Norway grows a future of knowledge. The Future Library is a climate project inspired by Katie Patterson. Trees are grown for books that will be published from authors around the globe to be shared in 2114. The East, Ukraine. Ukraine's greatest composer, Valentin Silvestrov. His fire of creativity is diminished daily by not being able to make music in his homeland of Kyiv.
Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge is under attack. Whether through malice or neglect, society today faces profound threats from attacks on knowledge, attacks that are happening all around us. Libraries and archives, institutions developed over thousands of years to protect knowledge and to help society benefit from it, are today at the front line of defense against those attacks.
Those of us on screen and those of us who are now here with you in concert intend to deepen our awareness of memory, the urgency of knowledge, how we hold it sacred and share it, its oppressions and erasure, and ultimately the hope that we can compel memory into the future and bring forward these teachings. Chu, utlasish čačumhi, Aaron Wells utlastla. Hello, I am called Čačumhi. Aaron Wells is what I am also called, and I am from the Nuučanuł and Ts'ymsyen of the northwest coast of what is known as BC. And I am here as your connector to these vast lands and knowledge sharings. Let us meet each other. We have the Gryphon Trio. Annalie Patipatanakun, Roman Morris, and Jamie Parker. Yes. And mezzo-soprano Marion Newman. We share roots as cultural neighbors in the territory of BC as Kwagiulth and Stolo First Nations, as well as mixed settler heritage. Oh, and me too. Now that we are all well met, let's delve into the birth of memory.
Tell me a story, my granddaughter says, and I talk to her about the frog's great-grandmother and how to protect every small animal. I tell her about the woman and the bear and how to choose her own path. I tell her about the people who walk with their souls resting against ours, the ones guarding the mountains, and why we never throw hot water to the ground without warning them. And I braid pearls into her hair on a bed of white lichen, flaming red heather. She's listening, making me a blueberry necklace. Braids of sedge grass hanging from the trees around us. The sun will make them dry in time. This is the land of pearls and braids.
There is nothing simple about a haircut in our culture. Hair holds many memories. Each thought, feeling, experience, breath, and heartbeat are all captured within each strand. Friends, loved ones, laughter and tears are all remembered here, held here, sacred. Let's explore memories held.
It's Kwagiulth. It's Mavis Underwood, Siwadamat, coming to you from the Agate Lane beach access in Cordova Bay, but to us it's also Thalilch, our ancient village site and our homelands here in Cordova Bay. Our people, there's evidence of us living here hundreds of years ago, but we actually believe that it may be going back to 3,000 years ago, where there was a really heavy presence of our Indigenous First Nations settled here because of some of the house remains, some of the midden site remains, and of course a lot of the history that comes out of here, plus the variety of foods that are available here in such close proximity and the availability of fresh water. It was a little bit of a paradise.
I grew up on this beach. Many of my formative years were spent on the very sands pictured in this image. In Canada, the goal and aim of official state policy was to erase Indigenous presence from the land. None of the history Mavis tells of was taught to us children. It was buried beneath houses, pavement, and parks. But the people whose land it is never forgot, and today we all need remember.
The rhythm in my cousin's hands as we clear fishing nets. Char, whitefish, salmon. The smell of freshly salted trout in wooden barrels. The swing in my auntie's hips, her laughter as we cut sedge grass by the river for our shoes to keep us warm. The sound of my mother humming as we pick cloudberries, blueberries, cranberries, crowberries, raspberries, lingonberries on long slopes and great marches, keeping the sun's ray close through a dark, cold winter. Energies of the land flowing through us.
A library is evolving, an artwork which will take nature and humans a century to create. In 2014, 1,000 seedlings were planted in the forest. They will be harvested in 100 years for the printing of 100 books. Each year, an author from around the world is contributing a work which will be kept in trust, unread, until the century is over. The future library is the inspiration of Scottish artist Katie Patterson, working in partnership with visionary city planners in Norway. Each year, the new manuscript is presented in the forest, then sealed away in a beautiful room built from old future library trees inside the Deichman Public Library in Oslo.
It contains the smell of the forest, it contains the atmosphere of the forest, the softness and the warmth of the wood. And it's almost like being inside a tree. It's like tree rings gather around us inside the room. All around us are these apertures of light, and these are small drawers that are going to hold the manuscripts that the authors have written and contributed to the project. Every single drawer is going to hold almost a treasure for the future, for future generations. And this project addresses some basic human needs and desires. That's to connect with nature and to connect with time, to connect with time past and to connect with time future, and to believe in that future because it's a future that right now feels quite hazardous.
It is a warm June night in the bustling city of Berlin. The scent of linden blossoms fills the air. Society friends gather in a salon drinking tea and listening to a young, rising pianist visiting the city. The year is 1796, and the young pianist is the untamed Ludwig van Beethoven. He has just sent his first published work into the world. And well-known influencer, Madame Sarah Levy. Now, Sarah held two things close to her heart: supporting the city's Jewish orphanage in town and collecting manuscripts of old German music. When Sarah Levy passed, she donated her vast collection of rare German manuscripts to the Berlin Sing Academy and willed her personal fortune to the Berlin Jewish Orphanage as legacy offerings. Music was infused within her family. Her great-nephew was Jewish composer Felix Mendelssohn. One century later, her legacy now tells a harrowing story. With the rise of the Third Reich, Mendelssohn's music was banned, and Jewish musicians were sent into exile or to their death. On October 29th, 1942, 60 children from the Berlin Jewish Orphanage and their caregivers were taken, put on a train, and murdered in a Latvian forest. The remaining 75 perished at Auschwitz. Documents once thought gone, now brought to the light. Thankfully, their images remain. Memories suppressed, where trees become paper. Levi's trail of fragile paper takes us on a journey. In 1943, Nazis were protecting the blood and soil of German music collections by having them sent to a remote castle in Poland for safekeeping. Under that same ideology, Nazis sent Jewish children to their death. Sarah Levy's German music collection was among those that disappeared from Berlin in the Second World War. They were thought to be destroyed. At the end of the war, soldiers from the Red Army found those crates of music and took them as trophies to the Kyiv Music Conservatory. It was there in 1999 where Levy's music legacy was recovered largely intact. This is a piece of music from the library of the Berlin Singing Academy. The stamp in the corner reveals the name S. Levy, and stamps at the bottom, in Russian and Ukrainian, reveal the registration at a Kyiv library. Thanks to the determination of librarian detectives, Levy's music legacy was returned back to the Berlin Singing Academy. Yet today again, this collection is escaping destruction. This time from the Russian military bombing, which is now ruthlessly destroying the city of Kyiv and the culture of Ukraine.
We must think at the moment of our colleagues in Ukraine, where libraries and archives are being attacked, or probably literally today. The most shocking statistics relate to public libraries there. 47 have been completely destroyed by Russian forces, beyond repair. A further 158 are badly damaged, and 276 have received some damage. Libraries and archives, to finish, provide a diversity of knowledge and ideas. They make it possible to face the present and the future through deepening and understanding of the past.
Of Ukraine's greatest composer, Valentin Silvestrov. It is now clear how little we appreciate when peace reigns and how fragile society is despite all its magnificence.
Tears,
Tears.
incapable of melting frozen ground.
Frozen.
The child missing their mother,
Missing.
their father.
Missing.
A parent missing a daughter,
Missing.
a son. A sister missing a brother.
Missing.
A brother missing a sister.
Sister.
This is the land of those who no longer can speak.
This is the land.
This
This
is the
is the
land
land
of
of
tears.
tears. Difficult truths happening across the globe. And difficult truths happening here. For many, Canada has become a safe haven. But for the Indigenous peoples, including children, Canada is a country of unreconciled harm. For the Indigenous peoples joining us tonight, this next part may be triggering. In CARE, we would like to offer some options to help relieve potential harm felt. One of those options is to plug your ears like this and listen to your breath. Yes. And you may close your eyes as well. Do as you need. Yes. The other option is to give yourself permission to go out into the lobby for a 5-minute breather. Have some water, get some air, then come back for the hope. Ushers are ready to welcome you back in when ready. Shall we continue?
Is there a received pronunciation of Cree? Is there a modern Cree usage? The chief's Cree, not the king's English. As if violating God the Father and standard English is like talking backwards. As if speaking the devil's language is talking back. Backwards. Back to your mother's sound, your mother's tongue, your mother's language. Back to that clearing in the bush, in the tall black spruce, near the sound of horses and wind, where you sat on her knee in a canvas tent, and she fed you bannock and tea and syllables that echo in your mind now that you can't make the sound of that voice that rocked you and sings you to sleep. In the devil's language.
Dabby da raluna, ana you raluna, uptak da raluna, mumiko la rula runga, ya. Dabby da raluna, ana you raluna, uptak da raluna, mumiko la rula runga, ya. Davida raluna, ana you raluna, arta raluna, Davida raluna, ana you raluna, arta
My tongue can't move the way it wants to. It hurts to talk here. Hayim heswalayik, my tongue can't move the way it wants to. It hurts to talk here. It's cold here. I'm cold here. Bring me home. Sing me warm again. It's cold here. I'm cold here. Bring me home and sing me warm again. The memories in my hair are gone. The memories in my hair are gone. The memories in my hair are gone. I hope everything. I hope everything. My tongue can't move the way it wants to. It hurts to talk here. My tongue can't move the way it wants to. It hurts to talk here.
here I am today, talking this language that 1944 when I walked up that beach to go to school, I didn't speak this language. I only knew probably hello and goodbye. That was it. That was the extent of my English language. And now here I am, talking in a language that's not mine. It's a borrowed language from yours. The sad part of this story is that I was forced into this. Wasn't given a choice. I often think back to my growing up days and how the old people exemplified that love, respect, humility, and all those things. Like when you would meet them, they would make this sound from their heart to acknowledge they're really glad to see you. And you saw them 10 minutes later and they did the same thing. You saw them again, maybe an hour later, and they did the same thing. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from us, and I say us, I mean the First Nations peoples and some of the things that are still part of our lives, the values that we carry, the teachings that we have that could benefit other human beings by them opening up their heart and say, yeah, you know what, I'll give this a shot.
I see that most of you are still with us. If there was anyone that did step out for a breather, we'd like to welcome you back in. And for those of you who stayed, I'd like to sing you back to your seat and then just offer this for our souls. That song was composed by my grandfather, Levi Martin. When my grandmother was in the hospital, we weren't sure that she was going to make it. And it really just talks about treasuring our lives and our souls and that they are precious. And so it felt fitting to share with you here tonight. True. All right. Let's continue. Destruction of cultural heritage is people, individuals, human communities. When cultural heritage is under attack, it is also the people and their fundamental human right that is also under attack. All humanity is enriched by cultural heritage.
Between 1870 and 1996, more than 150,000 Indigenous children were taken from their families and sent to residential schools. Their identities were stolen, cultures extinguished. They were undernourished, neglected, and often abused. There were more than 4,100 confirmed deaths. Did your school have a graveyard? How could this have happened? Where do we go from here? The Witness Blanket, a national monument to recognize the atrocities of the Indian residential school era.
Strewn in the wake of Indian residential schools is an immeasurable amount of broken or damaged pieces. These fragmented bits of culture, crumbling buildings, segments of language, and grains of diminished pride are all connected through a common, painful experience, residential schools. These symbolic pieces are woven together in the form of a blanket made from pieces of residential schools, churches, government buildings, and cultural structures. A blanket where the story of each piece is as important to its construction as the wood and screws that hold it together. A blanket with the sole purpose of standing in eternal witness to the effects of the Indian residential school era in a system created and run by the churches and Canadian government to take the Indian out of the child. Left alone, these pieces may be forgotten, lost, buried. Individually, they are paragraphs of a disappearing narrative, uncomfortable reminders that leave painful impressions on the minds and hearts of those who recognize what those pieces represent. Together, they are strong and formidable, collectively able to retell for future generations the true story of loss, reconciliation, strength, and pride. There is nothing simple about a haircut in my culture.
The Sami yoik is one of the oldest music traditions in Europe. For generations, it has been given as a gift from one generation to another, from a father to a son, from a mother to a daughter, from a friend to a friend, or from a lover to a lover. The church banned both the Sami drum and the Sami yoik for hundreds of years. It was not allowed to be taught at school. You could be punished for yoiking in public places. And it didn't change until some 50 years ago.
I think in 1923, Chief Descahe, and later in 1925, a spiritual leader of the Maori, Ratana, tried to go to the League of Nations in Geneva, but could not get in, were not received for an audience where they could present the concerns of Indigenous peoples in their territories. From 1923 until 1948, we had no voice at all in the international arena. And 1948 stands out because that's when the Universal Declaration on Human Rights was adopted. And even then, we were missing. We were not represented in 1948. So it was not till 1977 when the first delegation in the modern era went to Geneva. You know, it took us 8 years to be recognized as human beings. And it was over one letter, whether the letter S should be included in the word people. In our quest for recognition and respect or justice, in our quest to have our treaties honored and respected, we actually contributed a lot, I think. It was because of our elders asking, who among you is going to argue for my brother the fish, my brother the bird that flies? Who among you is going to argue for the four-leggeds that die so that we can live? Who among you is going to argue for clean air and clean water? And it was on that day, really, the UN consciousness about environmental protection also started. And it was Indigenous peoples who brought to the floor the recognition, the need to recognize family, the need to recognize Indigenous law. Where I started in 1977 was because of treaty violations. Treaties and the UN Declaration are actually solutions for the survival and dignity of Indigenous peoples. They're not problems as they've been often mischaracterized, but they're actually solutions.
Here is the hope. It has taken decades for the stories, music, and art of submerged histories to re-emerge from suppressed documents. But they are slowly being recovered and reclaimed justly.
And this project addresses some basic human needs and desires. That's to connect with nature and to connect with time, to connect with time past and to connect with time future and to believe in that future because it's a future that right now feels quite hazardous.
So much of what we need to know is right there in front of us. A healthy forest thrives when there's a diversity of life, all living together in a complex web where everything depends on everything else for survival. Diversity is life.
You will find us on the southern slopes of the mountain, where steep cliffs rush down towards the valleys, reaching for the light in defiance, singing ourselves upon the wind. We will weather the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge is under attack. Whether through malice or neglect, society today faces profound threats from attacks on knowledge, attacks that are happening all around us. Libraries and archives, institutions developed over thousands of years to protect knowledge and to help society benefit from it, are today the front line of defence against those attacks. Following John Stuart Mill's insistence in On Liberty, that only through diversity of opinion is there, in the existing state of human intellect, a chance of fair play to all sides of the tree.
Our culture comes from the land. Our language comes from the land. Our knowledge comes from the land. We are the land and our elders are our library.
In order for us to be able to move forward, that we have to be able to be open to each other and be willing to share the knowledge that each of us have that can create a much better world. We can step forward and see it as a good beginning, but recognizing that there's a lot of work that still has to be done. But in keeping with the teachings of our people, that it will require a spirit of courage to be able to meet these challenges that are in front of us. I feel a deep sense of hope.
In brooks and streams and rivers as they flow, she generates the dreams and makes the fires glow. And in every creature, whether large or small, she buries gems of wisdom in them all. And in every grain of sand, she plants the knowledge of the power of the land.
And those that honor her creations and acknowledge her grand design, she gives the temples of the sacred and the patterns of the divine. And then, with certain knowledge, this to understand, that the spirit of the people is equal to the power of the land.